Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sales Life. For Justin Ryder and Sean Ward, we want to welcome you to our podcast launched in 2025, meant to improve the sales life through friendship. Sean Ward is here with me, the Warden.
Warden.
Sales gravy on your mashed potatoes, popping out of a California t-shirt, biceps really showing today. Someone's been on creatine or something. Sean, welcome back to the show.
You're crazy. Hey, buddy. Thank you. Let's just fingers crossed, all of them, that this works, because this is attempt number, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5. We've been trying to make this happen all day. Technical difficulties.
It happens. You know, workers come, workers go, but friendship lasts forever, which is good.
You may hear a table saw and some hammering in the background.
We got to get this house done. Because we got to get you back out on the road, my friend. Once these projects wrap up.
Once the house is done, man, and the other project, I don't think I'm ever going to leave this house. Forget being on the road. I'm just going to
That's
stay
true.
home, sit inside.
The hardest thing about any creative endeavor is that uses tech. Let's say like YouTube, making videos, writing, whatever. Mm-hmm. You have to remove all friction from the process. You have to be able to go from idea to execution immediately, right? You and I both know
You're right about that. Yep.
And since we've started this podcast, your video equipment has not had a home.
It's had a home in a box on the floor in my garage. Yeah.
So you're literally setting it up each time. And
in the bushes, yeah, as far away from the noise as possible, trying to figure out the lighting being right. You know, do I sit in the sun or do I sit in the shade? And then you got to dial up all the settings, all brand new each time. It's a pain in the butt, but whatever.
So if you're a Sales Life audience member, the links that Sean is going to be a part of this project is awesome. However, Sean, I will say, I'm excited for you to have zero friction. Like when your house is done and your stuff is set up, and it's literally like, we got 30 minutes, 10:30 Pacific time, sit down, turn it on, record it, it's done. You know, that's going to be a totally different life, brother.
Yeah, this is a perfect encapsulation of how everything in my life has been this season. Just crank the frustration up to the max. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong back to back for a few years on end. I mean, no joke, dude. This story, if I were to start at the beginning of this season 3 years ago, I mean, it is unbelievable. This little home project we took on. When people start a home remodel, they're like, "Oh, you better plan for it taking twice as long and costing twice as much." So I factored that in. But I didn't factor it taking probably like 8 times as long and costing 10 to 12 times more than I thought, which is where
nobody wants this. This sucks. Like, this is not a good thing.
No,
how do you deal with frustration?
It's comedy of errors.
What do you? How are you dealing with your frustration?
I mean, I mostly yell at my kids and stuff.
That's not true. We know that's not true.
Well, yeah. No.
Obviously, you're working out a significant amount.
No, shut up, dude. No, I'm not. I don't deal with it well, man. I just collapse and, break down. And then just get back up and keep going. And it's not,
Resilience.
this is not, oh, poor guy is doing a remodel. It's more than that. I mean, I can't even tell you all the things that happen. I mean, just like highlights are, the city losing our file for 10 months trying to get permits. We had to pay for permits twice. The first contractor we had did not work out. And then somebody stole something from us. It happened to be our plans for the project. So we had to get and then the architect we had retired and was nowhere to be found. So I had to pay for architectural all over again. We had to do the permitting process all over again.
It's wild. I've never heard anything like that.
Framing I had to do twice, electrical twice, plumbing twice. We bought appliances. They were on hold so long that company went bankrupt. The appliances were gone. They liquidated them. We had to buy appliances twice. We got we got put on hold a year because we had um, uh, we got tied into a lawsuit and we had to preserve evidence and, the whole thing. So we were on hold for a year with our house demoed, while we're living in it. And then, so this is comedy. About a year ago, my wife and I were like, this is insane. What's happening? This is maybe a year and a half ago. Absolutely insane. And when people like break out the sage, like she's like, we're going to sage this house. The smoke, you kind of go around. We went around our house praying that God would like help us. And we opened the windows. We did the sage smoke thing, let the smoke go through. And we're like, all right, God, we're going to start afresh. And I'm telling you, the next day, we had somebody in the house, kind of an acquaintance, who slipped and fell and cracked their head open. And we had to,
my gosh.
We called an ambulance and they came, and the paramedics were in the house. And keep in mind, at this point, we were living upstairs and the whole bottom, including the kitchen, had been just torn up. And the paramedics are in there tending to this person who cracked their head open. And they're like, this place is inhabitable. I don't know how anybody could live here. It's like, dude, this is like 20% of the story. It just kept going from there. One of our investment properties at the same time burned down, and that's been a comedy of errors. I actually have to fly to Miami this week to go to a hearing because the unsafe structures board in the city says it's been too long since the fire, and you haven't rehabbed the place, so we're going to condemn it. And I said,
no.
I haven't rehabbed it because you took 20 months to issue permits. I just got them. And they said, well, that doesn't matter. And I said, well, can you cancel the hearing? No, we can't. I said, can we do it via Zoom? No, we can't. But don't worry. It's a formality. You just get here and then we'll give you more time. So I got to go to Miami for that this week. Anyway, that's a lot of rambling about. Yeah, let's go. Yeah. That's a lot of rambling. It's been a crazy season. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there for 20 hours.
We still haven't met in person, as people know. So so this is your journey. Thank you for sharing this. People, I mean, again, people probably understand 20% of what you're thinking and feeling. And you've said this before, by the way, which is like, there are people that would love to have these problems. 100%. All that being said, it's been super difficult on you and your family. And so my heart goes out to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm praying that it actually does resolve.
And we're living on top of each other right now, which is weird. As I talked about pulling my video equipment out of a box in the garage, next to those boxes are boxes of my kids' toys that we packed up from their rooms. Because when we started this project, they were kids and they're not even kids anymore. I'm literally going to just donate these toys. It's like, Dad, I don't need those anymore. I mean, it was over 3 years ago that we packed this stuff up. And now the kids are, 14, 11, and 9. It's like, do you think of how much a kid changes in that time period? And so, I mean, yeah, dude, it's kind of like grieving a little bit of that, the whole thing. It's the whole thing. It's a full life squeeze happening.
It's a life squeeze.
Anyway, yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
By the way, you're dealing with a life squeeze because I do think this would be super fascinating to people out there, but you hired a personal assistant?
I did. Yeah.
How's it going?
Yeah. It's actually amazing. Yeah, it's great.
What is this personal assistant, he or she?
She, yes.
What's she doing? What's she doing for you? Like, how did you, because like, I would love to have a personal assistant. I don't feel like I would know what to tell her to do. It's just like, can you just know what to do and do it? Like, that's what's kept me from sort of stealing yours and paying her a little bit more.
Yeah, it wouldn't take much. Yeah. No, it's been great. I believe it will be life-changing, and so far it's been really, really great. But so I'm sitting with my wife and our marriage counselor in a session a few weeks ago, and we're just, we're talking through stuff, and the coach looks at me and she goes, it's one person can't handle everything that you're handling right now. It's not possible. You're going to break down. Like, you've been doing this too long. She's like, you need a personal assistant. And I'm like, I've got people on the team that do. She's like, I'm not talking about work. I'm not talking about like that. I'm talking about just with all the personal stuff you have going. And she described the type of person that I would need. And then my wife looks at me and she goes, what about your sister, who is recently an empty nester, lives on in the Atlanta area. And, you know, the amazing thing is, like, she's 12 years older than me. She's like maybe the closest person in my whole life. So the trust factor, you know, it's just,
oh yeah,
it's
you
just
skip
built
all
in.
of that.
You skip all that. It's like, here's all the account numbers, here's all the passwords, here's my email. And, you know, it's just been great. We set up some simple systems on Google Drive, and so far, and Notion, we've been using that in project management.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been great. So everything from helping the plan travel to sending her all the kids' sports calendars. Like, we never even had a family calendar. I mean, I know it sounds so basic, like a shared family calendar. We just never had one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all
my
that
wife
stuff.
deletes everything from the family calendar as it happens. So if we have 64 events throughout the week, I'll get 64. Libby has deleted this event.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, I'm like, why? I said to her the other day, I was like, just let it, like, you're worried about storage for the internet. Don't worry about it. Just leave it. And she's like,
Yeah.
no, it kind of feels good, like, once it's done, to delete it.
Check it off.
But no, I'm gonna start. I interviewed someone last week for 5 hours.
Did you really?
A week. Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
It's been in the works for a couple years, and the reason I haven't done it is because it's the training. It's getting the person, like, it's so much easier to just do it yourself.
I know.
And
every time
you can't grow. You know, you are one-dimensional work-wise if you don't take the leap into, like, okay, I'm going to do. And there's actually, what I've heard that's a great tool is that I recommend to you is called Loom.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a great point. Yeah,
So
for training,
anything that you're doing on a video, make a Loom with it, and you're like recorded in the corner, your little face down. And for you, your little biceps will be in that little circle.
You gotta stop.
But yeah, so use Loom. Love it. Sean, there's two directions I can go with today. I've got two different tracks for us.
And and I'm not going to derail us like I did last time I think we talked. This is the beauty of what we do is we don't rehearse. We intentionally say, let's not talk. Let's just hit record and see what happens. And I like that. But
yes,
you never know. And we're 10, 12 minutes in. I don't know if this is going to add value to anybody. So far, it's just been me complaining about things. So let's see. Where do you want to take this?
No, that's very important, by the way. I don't want to overlook that, because trust comes in knowing someone's reality. So it is going to help this because people understand your reality a little bit better. I've never done a home renovation project. I never will, for this very purpose.
I'm really happy to hear that.
You've taught me. Thank you.
I'll tell you, if we knew now what we knew, or if we knew then what we know now, we wouldn't have done it. But anyway.
Yes.
Where do you want to take this?
Okay, so one of two directions you can pick. Number one, I texted you earlier today and I said, we missed our calling because we should have been madmen on Madison Avenue writing ads, because words, stuff, that type of thing, content means so much to us. And I wanted to go down that direction, potentially. One or two, been thinking a lot about boldness and where boldness can actually come from. Healthy boldness can come from in somebody's sales career. Meaning anyone who's listening to this, like the stuff I love the most, whether it's podcast, whether it's a speaker, something like that, they create in me a desire to be bold. Right. So, I'll leave a speech or something like that, and I'll feel sort of invincible. I'll feel fearless. And you and I have been talking a lot about that offline, where we do very little talking. Most of our talking is online. But I texted you the other day and said something to the effect of, like, can you help me become less of a fearful person?
More
And
optimistic. That's what you
more
said.
optimistic. I said, can you help me become more of an optimistic person? Because
Optimist. Yeah.
I come across as an optimist buried below. I'm not. I'm actually a pessimist.
You don't strike me that way.
Yeah, I truly am. Like, I'm
You also
actually
said you're very selfish. I still don't believe that. And then
oh
you
man.
followed that up by telling me how you gave your birthday away and it was the most amazing thing because that's how selfish you are. But anyway, tell me how pessimistic you are now.
So so I think it's seen. I think it's seen projects. I think it's seen deals. And yes, if I'm honest, my mind will tend to go towards pessimism.
Mm-hmm.
And that might come into play. Like, early on in my sales career, did not struggle with this. Right? When everything's new, you see it
Mm-hmm.
in every new agent. Like,
Yeah.
if you're listening to this out there and you're a new agent, you're showing up and you're like, I don't care if that person's uncallable. Like, I'm going to call them. I
Yeah.
don't care if that property's unsellable. Like, I'm going to call and sell it. And that boldness
Yeah.
when you're new actually creates a ton of momentum and positivity and, potentially income.
Right.
Along the line somewhere, you lose that.
So you're talking about the boldness to pick up the phone, to knock on any door, to just get in front of anybody, to do anything. You feel like you've lost that somewhat instead of gained that more? You have
No,
less boldness now.
I feel like I'm getting it back. I feel that I realized, like, when I look back on, let's say, 2024,
Uh-huh.
I think I had lost some of that boldness that comes with healthy sales, and had started to, like, give myself a pass. You don't have to be bold today, right? That's one of the hardest parts of our job.
Oh.
Like, I had a big closing Wednesday.
Mm.
The temptation Thursday is to be like,
Buddy,
I take the foot off the gas a little bit, man.
that's the hard part.
Got to
Yeah.
relax. I earned it a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's like
I
that.
have a huge
How do you do this job when it's not like, oh my God, I gotta, like, you're not on the brink of bankruptcy. How do you push yourself?
So let me give you my theory, and I want you to critique this.
Okay.
And if you're listening, I want you to critique this. But I'm having, like, there's dots connecting in my brain when it comes to sales this year, right? I'm in my 7th year, and it's finally starting to. So the way to avoid the Thursday after the Wednesday, the lull after the big, the way to avoid that is to have the flywheel going consistently. Every day, every week, the flywheel is just going, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways, a
Explain Flywheel.
flywheel,
I don't know if everybody's going to know that.
yeah. So flywheel is like a momentum pushing system and process where you always have inputs and energy going in to spin the wheel. And, for sales, that would be cold calls, business development, BOVs, in our particular line of work in commercial real
Mm-hmm.
estate. BOVs turn into engagements, exclusive listings that you're selling, leasing. And so you're pushing, the sales are coming around the other end, and this wheel just starts to move itself, right? It's like a
Mm-hmm.
Jim Collins concept. Good to great. The reason I think in the past I've pushed away that concept is because I wrongly thought a flywheel is not emotional. So I don't even know if this makes any sense, but do you follow me on this? Like, I don't want to live my life as a cog in a wheel,
Mm-hmm.
and
Ah.
I want to, I want to emotionally connect with what I'm doing, and so I
Mm-hmm.
kind of pushed away this idea of, like, I want to do that. I'm
That's so
now
funny.
coming full circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well, I mean,
think you can.
all we've done is I've just been focused on building the machine. I mean, we keep saying the machine. We've been calling it a machine for a dozen years. We've been trying to build that. I want to be not emotionally connected to it.
Right.
That would be the goal.
You just want it to work.
Yeah, I just wanted. I mean, we create a machine. We create a system and a process to help people and do it efficiently, with independent of my daily effort, my daily motivation. It's the cumulative sum of all of us working. But if I go down one day, it's like the whole thing doesn't go down; it just keeps going.
That's right. That's what you want. So, boldness in sales, the definition's changing for me. I used to think singularly. That's not a word. I used to think in a singular.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, boldness is being bold with, this certain thing or this project or whatever. It's actually, boldness in sales is creating a unique system.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is like the classic, entrepreneurs, founders type of journey, right? This is like whenever you're building a business. I mean, you're always starting out, one or two people, and you're working on just trying to get a deal, in the context of commercial real estate brokerage, trying to get a deal. And then you're trying to get a couple deals. And then, sooner or later you decide, okay, am I going to keep doing that, or am I called to scale and grow?
Right.
And there's benefits to doing it both ways, and there's downsides to both ways. I think, to take some of the emotion out of it, take some of the dependence off of one person out of it. That's the benefit of scaling and growing. Plus, you can offer a much better service to your clients, in my opinion, if you start to scale. Like, so our team, we're 9 people, probably going to be 10 pretty soon. And started out with 2 people. Then we added, an assistant, then we added another sales trainee, and then we added, support people, both in marketing and transaction management, operations. And we just started piecing it together. And the goal was always, it was a twofold goal. How do we, for us, the benefit for us, how can we increase our revenue? But at the same time, we were always thinking about, how can we increase the level of service for clients? Like, how can we offer something that's better out there in the market than anything in the market? And it certainly wasn't good enough to just improve one of those two. We had to do both. We wanted to increase revenue. We wanted to increase level of service. And so, that's been our journey. So, when you do that as a broker, your week goes from calling and just working on deals to doing things you never thought you'd be doing.
Yeah.
HR stuff and processes. And, I do operation meetings every week for a couple hours, just talking about team operations, working on efficiencies. Okay. We have a list of all the different bottlenecks and pain points, and then we just chip away at them one at a time. I mean, everything from our system to tracking prospects. How do we make that a little, like you said in the beginning, a little less friction on that?
Yeah.
We're trying to make everything more efficient, everything to be less of a pain in the ass. I mean, so this stuff is so repetitive and such a pain in the butt, and there's just smarter ways to do it, right? And then all of a sudden you realize you spent, it's Wednesday, you spent all of Monday and Tuesday doing team operations and HR, and you're like, I don't even know what I do anymore. I think I'm in real estate. I don't know. I mean, it's just wild.
Do you have a founder that you mentioned the word founder? Love that word. Do you have someone that you follow or look up to, or that you've sort of modeled your thoughts around after that? Like someone who's founded something?
You're really good at following people and pulling inspiration from them and listening to podcasts. And you always ask me about people, and I don't know. So the answer to that is no. I don't. I don't. My influences on the way I do things come from probably just reading Naval's tweets.
Hey,
and then
that's somebody.
And then listening to Gary Vaynerchuk. I listen to his podcast from time to time. I mean, that's it. Nothing else.
Yeah.
And then a whole lot of painful trial and error.
Yeah. That's what got me on the Mad Men kick, by the way, is reading Confessions of an Ad Man by Ogilvy. Have you read that book? Oh my gosh. You would love it. You'd absolutely love it. You'd absolutely love it. Yeah. Oh yeah. You have to put it on your list. Yeah. Creative genius.
Okay.
You know,
what did he do? Is the guy who invented Ovaltine? Is that what you said?
No, Ogilvy. He started an advertising company. Like he was a madman.
Yeah.
And back
truthfully,
in the day.
you and I were born just, I don't know, 40 years too late. That's the problem.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we should have been Madison Avenue people. The only sad part about that is
could have happened. Yeah.
we'd definitely be dead right now, which would be sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, could you imagine like Ovaltine's your client? You have to write a story. You have to write words that get people to buy it.
So your name is Ogilvy, and then Ovaltine is your client. I mean, you're set up for success with that. I mean,
no,
how could you fail?
I don't think Ovaltine was his client, but anyway. So boldness in sales.
Yeah.
Also, here's my second thought to this piece and kind of what I'm discovering. So you sort of nailed the first thing. I'm just going from deal to delegation, and that's a really cool thought. The second thing is boldness in sales has a sliding scale down. So like your boldness level decreases because you become almost numb. Like you go from, wow, I'm being very bold to what I'm doing to eventually that's normal life. That's the goal. So at first, cold calls, that sort of thing, those meetings, at first it's like, man, I'm really stepping out of my comfort zone. But then your comfort zone expands and expands and expands and expands to where now you're just living in the discomfort. That's just becomes totally normal.
It's not comfortable, or it's not uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So it takes boldness to get there, but then once you're living in it, it's not bold anymore. So then you keep pushing that comfort zone boundary. I mean, I guess
you have to. I mean,
separate question.
You'll find yourself reaching towards comfort. Like that's our default, right? As humans, our default is reaching towards comfort, safety, and so you have to push yourself into boldness constantly. But like, for example, I have found recently this total breakthrough in there is literally one reason to call someone, and that is to meet with them. And even sometimes I'll find myself hitting numbers on my cold calls, but not spending the time on the phone for the one single and sole purpose that you would call someone for, which is to then get face-to-face with them. Because, dude, if I get face-to-face with someone, it's over, right? But it's like, so I sort of thought, I've been thinking of this idea to translate, to put it into a post. And I've sort of envisioned this person stuck on a desert island. And I'm thinking through, like, it's one thing to mark the tally walls on the cave of like how many days you've been there. It's another thing to try and get off the island. Like sometimes we just measure cold calls because it's like, oh yeah, I got to get my 100 in this week.
Silly.
Don't do it. Like getting off the island is meeting with people.
Yeah. You'd rather make 5 calls a day than 50 or 100. Yeah. That's why it's important. Yeah, you're right. So since the beginning, I was trained to track 3 things every day: number of calls, number of contacts, and number of meetings set. And it was always about the number of meetings set. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I kept a daily log. I still have it. I just haven't entered it all into the spreadsheet. I have a spreadsheet with every day. I had that probably for the first 18 years of my career of calls every day, cold calls, prospecting calls. And when you're tracking those 3 columns, ultimate goal is to get face-to-face, but then you can focus on what am I having a hard time doing? Am I having a hard time closing once I have a decision maker on the phone? Is my contact to meeting ratio low? You know what I mean? Like if I get 10 or 20 decision makers on the phone and don't get a meeting out of that, I kind of have a closing problem. That's what I got to focus on. Conversely, if my call to contact ratio is low, right? If I make 50 calls and only get 2 decision makers on the phone, there's a breakdown there. Like you can't get past the gatekeeper. Maybe you have a confidence issue when you're talking, making the call and secretly don't feel like you should be talking to whoever the decision maker is. So that it just keys you in on where you need to focus your efforts. But 100%, picking up the phone for the sake of picking up the phone is that's so lame.
Yeah, it's lame.
Got to get in front of people.
You have to. Sean, I love it. Complete and total episode of Sales Life. We just recorded
I don't know what we talked
Final
about.
thoughts from you.
I don't know. I like what you're saying. I don't know if we fully landed there. Boldness. I think the point of boldness is maybe last year you weren't far from it. Maybe you just got there. You said felt like you didn't have boldness. I think to your point, when you feel like you're not being bold anymore, maybe it's because you're just comfortable being uncomfortable now. Like maybe you've landed there. It doesn't feel like boldness because you're so used to doing it. Maybe you're further along than you thought.
I think to go back to what I said earlier, which was I find myself being slightly pessimistic. I think it's less about people and circumstances. Like I think it's less about, okay, this call is going to go bad. I shouldn't even pick up the phone. I don't think that. I think I probably limit myself mentally with how much can be done in this business. And that's what's breaking down. It's a pessimism for career, team, big picture stuff that I'm just in year 7 really starting to dream big about what can happen. And big about my place in it and what can be accomplished. Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful to think about founding something. It's beautiful to think about being a successful real estate entrepreneur. It's beautiful to think about being a great real estate broker. It's really fun right now for me to think about being a successful real estate entrepreneur.
Yeah. So you're breaking out of the shell, the real estate broker shell. Right? I mean, it's like you're
Sean's like, I've done this years ago. This guy's, it's so slow.
It's so fun to watch, man. It's like watching him. It's like watching a puppy be born. Yeah, it's amazing.
Wow. And with that, with a live birth, we'll end this episode. Thanks for listening to Sales Life.